everyone, my name is Iasmina and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I want to share with you guys 7 good writing habits to have. These are just things that I have noticed along the way as I've been writing, what sort of things helped me and what things didn't help me. These are habits that I think are important to sort of have in your own life, in your own writing journey. But it's just me sharing some more tips with you, some more writing tips. And before we get into the 7 good writing habits to have, I want to give a big shout out to today's sponsor, PDF Element. So guys, this is actually like my first ever sponsorship, so I'm very, very excited. So PDF Element is a PDF software available for both Mac and PC. PDF Element is a PDF experience simplified. It's a great Adobe alternative and it's cheaper than Adobe. It's a fast, easy-to-use software that takes care of all your PDF needs. It features a brand new UI, making it easy to find the features you're looking for, such as adding a signature or image. The editing is smooth and convenient as it detects and it keeps the original font and size of your text. So all you need to do is simply click where you want to edit and the software takes care of everything else. And of course, it converts any type of document into PDF and vice versa, things like Word, Excel sheets, PowerPoint, EPUB, even HTML. So check it out in the links in the description if you're interested. There is currently a 50% discount, so make sure you take advantage of that if you're interested. It honestly makes editing PDF super easy, and I know I sometimes personally struggle whenever I have to edit any kind of PDF, so I genuinely really like the software and would highly recommend it. But yeah, that is PDF Element. Make sure to check it out if you're interested, and thank you again to PDF Element for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's move on to the 7 best writing habits. 7 good writing habits. 7 good writing habits. Let's just get into it. Okay. My first tip or recommendation for a good habit to have is to write down your ideas as soon as you have them. I don't care if it's in the middle of dinner, if it's in the middle of the night, if you're out shopping, write it down or take out your phone and record it or write down a quick note. Trust me when I say this, this has happened to me so many times where I've had a brilliant breakthrough, whether I was like struggling with this sort of plot hole in my books or just a new idea for a new book or any kind of idea it is, and I've always told myself, yeah, I'll remember it. I don't have to write it down, I'll remember it. You don't remember it. In most cases, you will not remember it, so just do yourself a favor and try to make a habit of whenever you have a breakthrough idea, just scribble it down and try to make it legible as well and not just write one word, because I've also had that happen to me where I've had an idea and I just wrote down one word or something very out of context where I came back to it days later and I was like, what does this mean? So, try to make it a little more detailed so that, days or weeks later, if you actually read it, you can kind of understand what you were going for, because otherwise it's kind of useless if you can't understand what it is. My second good writing habit is to do writing related work every single day. There's a lot of people who advocate for that you must write every single day, and I do think that's a great idea, but that doesn't work for everyone, and it certainly doesn't always work for me. But I find that if I do some kind of writing related work every single day, it still keeps me focused and motivated, and I still feel like I've achieved something, like I've gone forward towards my goal. It doesn't have to be actual writing, you can maybe read something that is research for the book that you're writing. You can edit, you can if you make YouTube videos like me about your writing and about things like that, that's also kind of goes along with it. Obviously, if you have a business around your books, whether it's doing some marketing, whether it's just sending emails for potential collaborations or things like that, it's all around your writing business. So it doesn't have to be exactly writing, although it's great if you could write every day. That's a super nice habit to have, but again, not everyone can do that. Some people have full-time jobs like me, you know, you have other things that you need to do and you can't always make time for writing, but you can most of the time make time for some kind of writing related activity. So yeah, I would recommend just trying to every single day try to move forward towards your writing goal. Whatever that means for you, one way or another, just try to move forward so that you feel like you've achieved something towards your goal. Now, if you are that kind of lucky person that does have time or the ability to write every single day, that's another fantastic writing habit to have. And I would also encourage you to do that if it works for you. And I would also add that another great thing around that is to create a sort of personal routine around your writing. So, you know, you sit down at your desk around the same time every day for about the same amount of time. Maybe you put on some calming music or music that inspires you to write the scene that you have to write that day. Maybe you make yourself a cup of tea or a glass of wine if it's in the evening and you feel like that kind of thing. I know I do. I think creating some kind of atmosphere around your writing time really helps you get into the mood, and I think in some way it should make you excited to write, you know, because sometimes we don't want to write, you know, sometimes we procrastinate or we just feel burnt out or we just don't have an idea or the motivation to write that day. But I think if you put together a sort of writing routine where you do all these things, then maybe it will help you get into the mood. It will help you get excited about writing that scene that maybe you weren't so thrilled thinking about writing it. So just an idea. It might help some people, but go you if you can write every day. That's I try, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Another great writing habit to have, this might sound a bit funny, but save your work. It pains me to remember the time I lost so much work because I was stupid and I didn't save my work properly. Now, I'm a developer. I should know these things. I am so used to saving, you know, Control S every line of code that I write. That's just, it's in my habit to just Control S. If I write a line of code, I save it and then I look at what I did. But it is a habit that I think any kind of work that you do on the computer, learn to save. Or obviously, you know, Word, pretty much every software these days has an autosave function, but make sure it's on. Make sure the auto-saving function is on. Make sure it's often enough, because sometimes it can be every 5 to 10 minutes, every 30 minutes, but maybe something happens. God forbid something happens during those 30 minutes and you lose the work that you did that day. And trust me, my God, it was so frustrating. I lost quite a bit of work that one time because it's the same software, same account same file that I used on the two laptops, because I was switching between them. I was wiping one of them, and I don't know, just I guess the timeline maybe was off, and I thought it was up to date on the one that I was actually going to use in the future, but when I opened it up, my latest changes were nowhere to be seen, and I had to rewrite and re-edit quite a lot. I would not recommend. It's not fun. So try to make that habit of either manually saving or just, you know, switching on that autosave function. Try to make sure that you can't lose your work, because it's the most frustrating thing in the world when it does happen. And I assure you that it has happened at least once in every writer's life that they have lost a chunk of their work, and it's honestly the most frustrating thing to have to rewrite something because you rewrite things all the time as a writer, but knowing that you wrote something and you might really have liked what you wrote yesterday evening or something, you were in a really good mood, and you know the words you put on the page were awesome, and to try to recreate that without having the previous work at hand, you might just not get it right. You might not get it as well as you did that night before. So yeah, just learn to save your work. Another good writing habit is to stop criticizing yourself and your work, especially because I know that there's times when we really, really hate what we've written. We think that, you know, we're not fit to be writers, and this isn't going anywhere, and, you know, everything you've written is terrible. That happens, but I urge you not to sink into it, and I really want to encourage you to take a break when you feel like that's about to happen, when you feel like, you know, when you read something that you've written recently and you really hate it and you start falling into that hole. I urge you to put it aside, go do something else for a while, or write something else, write something completely different, and then after a while come back to it, and then you'll see it in a different light. Or better yet, try to give it to someone else to read, because oftentimes, you know, we're so immersed into our own little bubble that it's really useful for other people to come in and give hopefully constructive criticism. Obviously, that's my next point. But don't criticize yourself too much, because you're always going to do better. Writing is all about rewriting and editing and learning new things and always doing it better. So don't get hung up on, oh, last night's scene that I wrote is terrible, I'm gonna have to scrap it. You don't have to. You can rewrite it, and later on you can edit it and make it that thing that you had in your head that didn't come out right on paper, but you can always fix it. So don't criticize yourself too much. Don't think you're a terrible writer. Because you're writing, you're already a writer, and you'll only get better in time. And then the next tip that I mentioned is try to accept outside feedback. Hopefully constructive feedback. I know, you know, sometimes we're super afraid to give other people our works, and again, because writing is such a lonely thing to do, you're just kind of stuck in your head, and you're really afraid of outside perspective of people actually reading your work. But it's super important, because I mean, that's the whole point. Why are you really writing if you don't want anyone ever to read it? I mean, maybe you don't, and in that case, fine. But I think for most people, their end goal is to have that piece of writing into someone else's hands, into readers' hands, so that they can enjoy this world and the story that you've created. And in order to get there, you need to make a habit to get used to other people reading your work. And I know it's terrifying. I remember the first time I ever sent a critique partner my book. That was one of the most anxiety-driven things, because so many things were going through my mind. Oh my god, what if it's terrible? What if they hate it? What if they can't make it past the first page? What if? It's normal, especially the first time you ever send your work to someone else to read. It's normal to feel like that. But you just kind of have to do it and get over it, and then continue to do it, continue to share your work with other people, with critique partners, beta readers, you know, friends and family. Obviously, all of this before you actually publish that piece of writing. But, you know, you kind of have to get used to it, because people will read it and people will comment on it, and sometimes it might not be what you want. And in that sense, you know, I hope that people don't give negative comments. I always try to encourage people to leave constructive criticism versus, I hated this book, it was terrible. Like, that doesn't help anyone. And, you know, even just random readers who leave reviews on Goodreads or Amazon who do that, it's kind of, well, it doesn't help anyone, because opinions are subjective. That's what opinions are. Just because you thought it was terrible doesn't mean someone else will, and it's much better to sort of try to explain the things that you didn't like, because then someone else might read that comment and say, well, actually, that's something I really like in books. So, but just saying this sucks doesn't help anyone. But in any case, you know, my point is that you should get used to people talking about your book and people leaving opinions, good or bad, on your work. It's just something that is a part of the process, and the sooner you get used to it and get thick skin about it and don't get hung up on the slightly more negative opinions. It's all an opinion, and you can never please everybody. That's something that I think is so important to really understand, because you cannot write a book that's perfect for everyone. Just think about, you know, who you're writing that book for, who your target audience is, and just write for those people. Don't think, about any other person. If you're writing a romance novel, don't think about the people who read horror, because A, they're probably not going to read your book, and if they will read your book, yeah, they're probably not going to like it, but that's not the people you're writing that book for. Okay, and the seventh and last good writing habit that I want to encourage you to work towards is finish your work. Finish your books. This is, I think for me, this has been one of the most powerful writing habits I've ever done. It took me so long, so many years of starting stories, starting books, starting novels, and never finishing anything. The first time I ever finished a book, which is the book I'm gonna try to publish first. You know, it took me a really long time to finish, and it took me even longer to revise and edit. I've been editing that book what feels like forever, but you know, it's always made it better. But that first time, the first time I finished a manuscript, which was that manuscript, I think something kind of crazy happens in your brain where you finished a book. Doesn't matter, you know, how bad it is, how bad you think it is. The fact that you finished it is such a powerful thing. This will drive you so much to write more, to finish the next thing. I think it's so important to learn and make a habit of finishing stories. It's honestly the best motivator, because especially the first time you did it, it's kind of, you've proven to yourself that you can do this. You've proven to yourself that you can write a book. And that is the most powerful motivator, because then you'll just want to keep going and you want to write more and more books. And I urge you to try and continue to finish those books. Again, as first drafts, as second drafts, as short stories, whatever the piece of writing is that you're writing, finish it. So yeah, those were my 7 good writing habits to have. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something maybe new, or maybe hopefully I encouraged you to try to pick up some of these habits. Trust me, they all help one way or another. So thanks again to the sponsor for this video, PDF Element. Again, all links down in the description. Yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next Friday with a new video. Bye!